Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this exclusive webinar on robotic process automation. My name is Marcus Abdul with Vigilant Technologies. I will be your host for today's presentation. Soon we will be joined by our speaker for today's presentation, EA and RPA Consultant, Don Adams. Today we will discuss robotic process automation and its impact in key industries. We will review the advantages for RPA over traditional IT solutions, explore various use cases for RPA, along with selecting the proper RPA tool, and finally, RPA deployment do's and don'ts. Before we begin, let's go over a few housekeeping notes. If you have any questions, whether technical or related to today's topic, please submit them using the Q&A box on your screen. We will also have the full recording of today's presentation available to all attendees, so you can view it later or share it with your colleagues. Let's start today with a very brief discussion on who Vigilant Technologies is. We are a boutique global consultancy delivering advisory, implementation, and managed services for over 20 years. We're headquartered here in Troy, Michigan, just outside of Detroit, and have offices in Toronto, Canada, and Hyderabad, India, along with sales offices in both Atlanta and New York. Vigilant Technologies represents a wide variety of technologies with a great range of capabilities from your traditional IT, which would be infrastructure business apps, middleware, and analytics, onto what we call technologies in this digital transformation era, more specifically digital automation for robotic process automation, which we'll speak about today, among other services like augmented reality, chatbots, and others. We were founded back in 1999 and grew up with a heavy focus on Oracle. As an Oracle Platinum partner, we focus on all things Oracle. Our DNA is about focusing on the customer and bringing innovation, teamwork, and trust to that relationship into every project. We strive to back every project very carefully so there are no surprises. We always want to keep our promises and are guaranteed to meet or exceed our deliverables and our SLAs that we take very seriously. In addition, we are a minority certified supplier in both the US and Canada. So if your organization is working to increase its diversity footprint, we can help you achieve that. With that being said, I'm excited to introduce Don Adams. Don is a distinguished IT professional and enterprise architect with over 25 years of IT leadership and hands-on experience designing, developing, and implementing innovative technology solutions utilizing a host of development platform and technologies. Don has over 5 years of RPA and AI implementation starting at Ernst & Young, where he was responsible for the creation of an RPA target architecture. Don, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you for that introduction. Again, my name is Don Adams, and I'll be talking to you about some of the topics that Marcus just mentioned. So RPA, robotic process automation. Next slide, please. So what is RPA? How does it meet industry needs? Well, robotics process automation is the technology that allows business industries and functions to dramatically reduce business operational costs, add and scale digital bot resources at a much lower cost than a human, perform the repetitive low-value work of humans at a much higher accuracy, volume, and speed. Bots can be audited, therefore all of the activities can be monitored, providing transparency to activity status, completion, exceptions, and outcomes at the business level. This data can be analyzed for predictive analytics to plan for and improve business processes and value outcomes. So some of the industries that find RPA as being very critical to their competitiveness: the finance market, banking, manufacturing, healthcare, insurance, service, and hospitality. All of these industries are well on their way on their RPA journeys to automate their processes to see that tremendous ROI and value that RPA brings. How? Well, RPA can integrate with and operate all of your business applications just as a human can, using screen object capture technology that has been perfected over the years. Digital bots do not require medical, vacation, time, or even a bio break. So they are very good digital workforce for businesses to automate those manual tasks and elevate their workers to higher value business functions. Automation is mandatory, but I want to talk a little bit about what automation is again. When you look at this slide, you'll see lots of applications, Microsoft Office, cloud apps, enterprise applications, ERP systems. These are all the systems and applications that we all navigate to when we're working within any of those industries I mentioned. And we sit at our desktops and we navigate through all of these different applications, moving data around our business function and our business ecosystem. This is where RPA has the most value. If you can imagine, you sit down and you do the same steps one after another, those can be automated. All competitive companies understand that to remain competitive, they must reduce repetitive human tasks. But with hundreds of data sources, data formats, legacy systems, and disparate applications, it is extremely costly and time-consuming to consolidate, integrate, and unwind these systems using traditional IT integration methods. And those methods are data integration, systems integration, all the traditional IT type projects to make sure all of your systems are in sync and all the data is the same. These projects take so much time, cost, energy across so many different technologies to make sure the data is integrated properly. RPA gives businesses an easy way to automate those keystrokes, desktop screen scraping at the presentation layer, which makes the project much faster and easy to implement, and it starts delivering ROI right away. Next slide, please. Industries that benefit from RPA. So as you can see on the right-hand side here, we've listed the applications, the industries that I mentioned earlier, and a few others, along with where they are in their RPA journey. As you can see, insurance companies have found the ability to automate at least 38% of their manual activities. So you can imagine the cost savings that insurance companies are receiving based on their RPA journey, along with others like energy and healthcare, banking and financial services, pharma and life sciences. Adoption planning is critical, so you need to start now. Why? Because your competitors have already started to take advantage of the dramatic cost savings that RPA can deliver. Next slide, please. Why is RPA so popular? Strategic use cases that immediately return a significant ROI, usually in the first year. This is the key differentiator between RPA and other traditional IT technologies. Most projects take between 6 months and a year to understand or receive any of the benefit that they plan to solve. RPA can solve problems with anywhere between 6 and 12 weeks. Bots can be up and running and doing those manual activities. So RPA has advantages over traditional IT solutions. It's very cost effective, data integration. So instead of integrating between two different applications in their databases at the system level, where that information is hidden in code, bots can actually interact with the applications at the presentation layer and move that data from one source system to a target system cheaply, fast, and cost effectively. Desktop assistants are also part of the RPA capabilities, meaning human users can interact with bots as they're doing their work and allow bots to do the manual key entry to different applications and systems on demand. Transparent work queues are another capability in these platforms, RPA platforms, that allow business users, business SMEs to track the progress of end-to-end automations and understand when these processes have started, stopped, and also the status of the actual workflow itself. Automations are managed by business, not IT. This is critical because business folks are the people who understand their business function, as well as the exceptions and changes that may occur in their business to allow them to quickly and effectively update bots to perform these tasks. Integration with all IT applications, Windows, web, mainframe, etc., and all other ERP systems in the market. RPA has the capability nowadays to integrate with all of these applications with ease. Some of these systems like Oracle E-Business Suite, Salesforce, SAP, CRM, and many, many more are now integratable by RPA platforms and can be automated at the presentation layer. Next slide, please. Here's an example of corporate finance. We've all seen these functions before, from AR processing to bank reconciliation to regulatory compliance and reporting. These functions are performed by every major company in their finance organization. Some of them even use similar ERP systems to enter their billing information, sales information, manufacturing, and inventory information. This is where RPA shines. Robots can manipulate these applications. The data that's necessary to be consolidated from Excel sheets and entered into ERP systems can all be automated across every one of these functions, and it's been proven today. 80% reduction in errors, 95% reduction in process time, and a 50% savings in operating costs. This has all been proven over the last few years that the finance function can be automated at a very high level. Next slide, please. State-of-the-art automation practices in finance. This is just an example of a zero-touch payable management process that we've automated. Take a minute to look at this diagram and what the bot is doing and the processes it's able to handle, and look at the exception rate handling over time. As you can see, we've reduced the cycle time by 80%, reduced reconciliation time by 95%, reduced the time for report preparation by 75%. So if you think in your finance functions or any back office function, people spend tremendous time validating documents with data in them that needs to be translated or transferred to another system. It's very practical and cost effective to have bots do this step-by-step automation to enter your data. First, prepare your data and then enter that data into your ERP systems. And there are other case studies that you can look at as well. Next slide, please. RPA business processes and use cases. Some other good candidates for RPA is the human resource function. Candidate sourcing. Legacy HR systems can use bots to automate and aggregate CVs, assessment results, and interview notes using bots. This is because RPA has technologies like OCR and other natural language processing capabilities to consume and ingest documentation related to these functions, and then key that information into the systems of record and validate that information as it goes in and report back to the business process owner the status of that activity. Another use case is employment history verification. This process includes numerous routine steps such as checking third-party verification portals. RPA case studies have shown that in less than 8 weeks, an RPA solution was implemented, reducing 40% of the manual labor. When you monetize that 40% across that function, it adds up to a lot of savings for business functions and businesses themselves. Another area is hiring and onboarding and headcount reduction. Hiring and firing brings significant burden on HR and other support functions like IT, security, and facilities management. While it is costly to build a solution that encompasses all these functions and completes the necessary tasks for new or leaving employees, RPA bots can be deployed relatively fast and effectively to automate these steps and bring speed and transparency to the whole process. Payroll automation. The payroll function requires repetitive processing of payroll, taking into a myriad of regulations and company rules. They can now rely on bots to increase automation in the payroll management process. Case studies show that automation provides 85% faster payroll processing with no manual errors. I repeat, no manual errors. Implementation took 7 weeks and reduced manual effort to 25%. So if you think about that, if this was a traditional IT project using .NET or Java or any of the other integration coding platforms, this may have taken 6 months. And you can imagine the costs related to that. Here we're able to implement bots who do what the human does through the user interface, which, by the way, already has its validation built into that system anyway. So you do not have to recode validation or any of the logic at the system or data layer. You're actually using the underlying application's logic, and the bot is using that to enter the data as a human would. Workers' compensation claims. Case study at Walgreens. Workers' absence due to injury or sickness needs to be reported to the claims management service provider to manage workers' compensation claims. This is a relatively simple and automatable process that can reduce admin tasks dramatically. We only list a few human resource functions here, but you can imagine all of the activities that your employees are doing for that function. You could begin to imagine all the use cases that can be automated. Here's just an example of a process design document at a high level where we were dealing with sales orders. This company receives sales packets from sales teams out in the field. These packets can have anywhere between 10 and 30 documents in them, including the invoice, signed documents by the client or customer, and a host of other documents that are required to be entered into this company's financial systems. And in this case, they have packets that are around cash sales. They have packets that come in around their leasing sales, their MPS sales, their CPC packet, and their process rental packet. We've developed bots that do all 5 of these functions, ingest all the documentation related to these packets, validates the packet, so that the user doesn't have to sit there going through PDF documents, looking at each one. The bot does all this manual work to validate the packet or not validate the packet, but reports back to the business process owner with the status of that particular packet. If the packet has been approved by the bot, then it goes on to the human to do more of the logical work that a human would do. And then the human would pass it back to the bot to continue the processing of these packets. So in this example, this was a huge savings, up to $1.4 million by this particular manufacturing company. And bots were able to achieve this within 6 months. They were able to start to see the return on investment. Next slide, please. How to pick the right RPA tool. This is a very, very, very important step in your journey, your RPA journey. Many of the RPA failure stories are related to poor planning in the platform selection phase. So I list here a few of the do nots. Do not attempt to leverage an existing vendor relationship because you're already using one of their technologies. Don't assume that your current IT organization has the expertise and experience to choose the correct platform. Please keep in mind that they are usually dealing with keeping the lights on with your existing systems and or integrating at the data and system level. RPA is a different implementation pattern than traditional IT integration techniques. Do not assume all RPA tools have the same capabilities and implementations. The top leading RPA platforms have significant implementation differences. Do not be fooled that, you can create bots with each of these, but they all have different implementation patterns and things that they do best. Don't assume that any or all of your RPA tools will work in your application ecosystem. This is a very big one here. I've seen companies that bring on a particular platform and realize that that platform doesn't play well with their internal applications. But they've already made the commitment to the vendor, bought licenses, brought in developers, and now they're struggling to find specific use cases that fit that platform's capability. For example, RPA Platform A may cover 50% of your use cases. RPA Platform B may cover 65% of your use cases. But then you find out that RPA Platform C covers 90%. And the reason why you would know this is because the first thing you should be trying to do and understand about your business is, what are those use cases out there? It is recommended that you understand, discover, and document your low-hanging fruit use cases across all of your verticals so that you can prioritize which use cases will bring the most value, and also understand the applications that they reside on top of, so that you're able to pick a platform that will handle most of those use cases. What are the 5 things that people should consider when determining the right tool for their use cases? So the basic concept of RPA surrounds attended versus unattended, headless bots versus human interaction with bots. So you should identify and analyze your business processes first. Determine what RPA capability categories your processes fall into. Understand the applications that make up your ecosystem. Determine if you want to implement citizen developers. This makes a big difference. Some of these platforms are very complex applications that require coding. So if your plan is to implement citizen developers, your choice should be a tool or platform that is conducive to offering training, as well as ease of use by folks who are not traditional IT developers. Don't be afraid to utilize multiple RPA platforms to solve your automation needs. This is not an traditional IT solution platform. So there are many companies who utilize 2, 3 different RPA platforms because those platforms provide the best capability for their particular use cases. Next slide, please. RPA deployment, do's and don'ts. What you should do. Certainly seek professional services providers to help you on your RPA and AI strategy. This is critical because they can give you the full picture end to end in terms of target architecture to have a platform that manages and automates a large percentage of your use cases. Have a financial objective to achieve. Again, we're used to traditional IT integration being a project and some budget, but RPA is about return on investment. So use cases should be planned and inventoried and prepared with that in mind, with a target ROI that you would like to achieve. So to support that, you need things like setting up your RPA steering committee and process prioritization governance. Because RPA is culturally different than most IT solutions, it's important that the program be driven from the executive level down so that line managers and directors and VPs can come online and understand the value that RPA brings to their function and helps them understand why they should adopt RPA. Identify low-hanging fruit across all of your business verticals. A lot of times, companies focus in on one vertical and they start to see a drop in use cases or potentially limit themselves to use cases that may be too complex initially. So it's important to have an overall strategy across your organization so that you can see the value across your verticals at the appropriate time of the delivery of the bots. Never isolate one business unit for a pilot, and I just mentioned the reasons why. Have effective approval flow by ROI prioritization. That means tackle the low-hanging fruit and the use cases that provide the most ROI, return on investment, to your function. Set up your intake process. Set up your infrastructure. Plan, set up your center of excellence. Build your delivery team based on your process use case backlog. And again, start with low-hanging fruit. Show employees that they will achieve and elevate their work that can help their career. Bottom-up approach in terms of process complexity, types of approaches for successful RPA are apparent in this journey and this methodology. What not to do. RPA is not a one-trick pony. RPA can be utilized across many workloads and use cases. Do not adopt RPA for tactical or single solutioning projects. Why? Because most single solution projects are solving a problem that's immediate in terms of the businesses need. RPA is there to bring cost savings to the program, and that should be allowed the proper journey and methodology to implement them correctly based on a return on investment. Do not go out and buy licenses. Do not go out and hire developers first. Be sensitive to your culture of employees, that it's not about terminating headcount. This is about hours back to the business, elevating employees for higher value work and cost savings at the same time. There are no shortcuts to successful RPA delivery. RPA is not an IT project. It is a business solutioning and implementation plan and methodology to return on investment in terms of cost savings. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to go into some of the details about what a bot can do, what RPA can do. And so we're going to go into how does it work. So this is just a few things that it can do. RPA data integration. Data integration is one of the most critical pieces of any business, moving data from one system to another. Bots are non-intrusive. That means there is no need for complex coding to collect data from different systems. Why? Because we're not working at the system or data level. We're literally working through the screens and presentation layer of your internal applications, whether they be ERP systems, Excel spreadsheets, PDFs, text files, doesn't matter. RPA can collect that information and key it into your systems of record as needed. And that includes subledgers and other types of systems. Bots collect and federate data in many ways. Again, through screen scraping, collecting data from CSV files, Excel files, text files, web scraping, APIs, and web services. So RPA is not just limited to the presentation layer. However, we do recommend if the APIs and web services do not exist, do not spend the money to create them. This is probably not a good use case if you're considering another technology. Bots utilize screen connectors, text box drop-downs, radio buttons, click buttons to log in and accurately get data from your applications. Bots can also perform calculations and validate data. Bots are much more accurate in terms of typos, timing, and frequency and volume. There are basically three types of bots. Task bots pass tasks to smart bots. Smart bots perform domain-specific work and pass results back to task bots. IQ bots perform analytics work and can learn over time and repetition. Bots can accomplish all of the above at a fraction of the cost and time and effort that integrating at the data and system level would cost. RPA offers control rooms in most of the top platforms, and it can be managed centrally by each vertical or business function. RPA provides a central place to manage bots' resources, manage all processes, assign processes to bots, provide full audit trail, provide work queues to see success or failures of automation run. Bots notify system business admin if something failed or was successful. Specific to this project, RPA can, again, scrape data and run reports, enter data, import data into systems, applications, spreadsheets, and text files. Again, RPA is non-intrusive. It can collect or enter data at near real time. It can generate reports on schedule or real time. In a manufacturing, sales, inventory, et cetera environment, having fresh data in near real time is a tremendous value. RPA has a capability called application modeling. This is where you would configure robots to do specific functions based on the actual screens of an application. For example, if you have SAP HANA, you could literally create a smart bot for each screen, and when a task bot calls the smart bot with data, the smart bot goes through the keystrokes to enter that into the correct screens and all the navigation necessary to process that transaction. Next slide, please. The RPA Value Proposition supplements your workforce with a digital workforce. And what this means is once you create the automation, an automation is separate and distinct from the bot that actually runs that automation. What that means is if initially the process required one bot to do the work, and at some point in the month or the week or anytime the volume increases, you can easily add another bot to that same automation. So now you have 2 or more bots doing that process, handling the workload and the volume when they creep up. Bots can detect revenue leakages from the organization, meaning they can be assigned to look at certain thresholds and metrics to give pre-warning about your data, documents that are being ingested into your applications, reducing service costs significantly, improving the accuracy of data and its processing speed with reduction in manual errors. A lot of issues happen when humans are entering information. They mistype data from documents. Bots don't do this. They'll type in exactly what is provided to them by the documents, spreadsheets, text files, or whatever hard copy that they are interrogating. Employees are left with time and energy to focus on activities around decision-making and strategizing. Now, this is important. Again, RPA is not here to reduce headcount, but it can. But what it does best is it allows subject matter experts use their intellectual knowledge to improve that business function at a higher level, while the bots are doing the mundane, time-intensive functions. A laser-sharp focus on the front office as the back office gets automated. That's the idea behind elevating employees from mundane work to more business value-oriented work. Ease of documentation of the business process. This is important too. A lot of our intellectual knowledge sits in the heads of our employees. When you engage in an RPA implementation practice, you're actually elevating that business process to a level that it's very transparent, so that when you onboard new employees or would like to go to a different solution at some time, your process has been automated through the bot and is very visual and transparent to what those functions are for easily migrating or translating that capability to a target system, strategic system later on. Faster service with bots working at lightning speed is the goal. So here we talk a little bit about the journey, and this is very high level. There are a few methodologies under each of these, but at a high level, you have to have a strategy. While automation can be used for reducing operational costs, when employed along with a plan, it can be even better. As a broader strategic implementation, automation can yield way more benefits. Management, to launch an RPA system, the C-suite executives must be involved, and the project should be handed over to an experienced professional services delivery in terms of roadmaps and strategy and implementation models. Process. Picking the right set of processes to automate is the key to enabling better productivity and operational efficiency. The processes selected must be stable, mature, optimized, repetitive, and rule-based processes. I'll add one more point here. The processes should be repetitive and optimized, but bots also allow you to make changes. Processes change from time to time within a business function. And instead of having to put in a call to an IT team, getting costs, effort, and work, a lot of these changes can be done at the presentation layer on the bot itself, so that reduces the time to value and, again, the cost in implementing a change in a process. Infrastructure. Again, this is where it's very important to work with a professional services RPA delivery and strategy team, because we are aware of what is necessary in terms of working with your internal IT organizations. Everything from security to authentication to virtualization. These things need to be planned up front. Again, business drives and supports the RPA, but these RPA infrastructure must sit on top of the IT systems. So they must be involved and aligned and provide support to these bots. Change management. Another critical role of leaders in adopting RPA within their existing systems is to propagate the change through the entire enterprise. Anything new attracts resistance from within an organization. It is therefore imperative to minimize that and make sure that everyone is on the same page when it comes to adopting the change. So these are very key high-level automation journey topics that a professional services delivery team can provide upfront before you invest money into your RPA journey. Next slide. So we're going to talk a little bit about what they're saying in terms of RPA over the last couple of years. According to a report by Forrester, the enterprise robotic process automation market is expected to reach over $2.9 billion by 2023. Statistics believes that industries will be worth $4.9 billion by just 2021. The RPA industry will be worth $4.9 billion by just 2021. This massive growth rate of RPA is due to its inexpensive implementation costs, which we just talked about, and massive return on investment. Consequently, the adoption of the technology will surge even more than it is. The potential savings for companies that deploy RPA stand between $5 trillion to $7 trillion by 2025, based on studies conducted at Hadoop. Hadoop also estimated that by 2025, RPA software will be performing tasks with an output level that will be equivalent to 140 million full-time employees. At this rate, it is fairly evident that RPA adoption is here to stay. If you happen to be an enterprise looking to streamline and automate processes, the time to act is now. That ends my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Don, for this very informative presentation. Friendly reminder to our attendees, if you do have any questions related to Don's presentation, please submit them using the Q&A box on your screen. Don, we do have a few questions in already. Let's get right to them. One attendee asks, I use a legacy application that were not listed in previous slides. Can I still use RPA? Don, I think we might need you to unmute your phone.
Oh, sorry about that, guys.
No worries.
Yes, you can certainly automate your legacy application. You do need to make sure you understand what operating system it's running, whether it's a mainframe, whether it's Windows, whether it's a web application, whether it's Citrix-based. RPA can handle all four of these types of applications, no problem. However, it's good to understand that early analysis in terms of looking at your applications, understanding their change management process, understanding the operating system, and what tool best suits those use cases that are coming from that particular application. So the answer is yes.
Okay, next question. Once deployed, what kind of ongoing support is required to keep the bot running?
Right, that's a very good question. Most platforms have a control room or orchestrator that allows businesses, once the automations and bots are in place and developed by professional services and implemented correctly, most platforms offer a interface for business function users to understand what the bots are doing in terms of transactions and the automations that they're doing, and also the ability to see exceptions that may occur. Now, when these exceptions occur, you're able to tally those and track those to understand what type of change the bot might need in order to account for these exceptions going forward. And this can be done either by the subject matter expert or a RPA developer, depending on the complexity of that particular automation. So change can happen very quickly. It doesn't have to go through the more stricter IT integration, traditional IT integration. So change is very easy through automation.
Thank you. How easy or difficult is it to make changes or updates once the bot's deployed?
Yeah, that was kind of the same answer I just gave. It's pretty easy to make those changes because we always recommend that you have an administrator using the control room or the orchestrator that's managing your digital bots. And if there's a change in the process, and we don't recommend you choose processes that have a lot of changes, then that's potentially a solution that needs to be re-engineered prior to even thinking of bringing it to RPA. So again, the right use cases are the ones that don't change that much that are very repetitive that a bot can learn, right? Those are the types of use cases that you'd want to have so that your changes are at a minimum. But if changes are required, it's very easy to do that and promote that change into your production bot automation queues.
Okay, our last question seems kind of similar to a previous one, but I think they're looking at the evaluation stage. Who manages RPA? Should I handle this myself or bring my IT team in?
Right. So RPA is meant for the business, but RPA requires your internal IT to be aware of and support all of the infrastructure necessary to host RPA. Whether your data centers are in the cloud or on premise, those owners of that infrastructure will be creating virtual machines to house your bots. So they do need to be brought along very early on in your journey. This is why we recommend professional services companies, because we have an understanding of exactly who we should be talking to in your IT organization and how to align them, their role, and provide them with why this adds value to what they do. So again, this is the analysis that has to be done up front before you begin to develop bots.
Okay, we actually have time for one last question here. So our attendee asks, what is the best way to start small, improve project win to prove the entire RPA process, not just an upfront design review? What is typically the smallest win you see that helps?
That's a good question. Again, it starts with having a strategy, a methodology that can only be brought in by folks who have done it in the field the past 3 to 4 years. As you know, RPA is fairly new to the world these days. So it's important to get these types of professionals to give you a high-level view of the full picture. And the analysis up front is key to that. And we bring those types of analysis, questions to ask, questionnaires. But you're right, the low-hanging fruit is the most important piece, identifying that across many verticals so that you have use cases across all your verticals that could potentially be proving high ROI. And those usually fall in those very manual tasks in your functions where you have 20, 30 people preparing data through Excel files or Word documents and PDFs, having to validate that documentation. Those are the best use cases because they can be stepwise automated, and bots can quickly do that work in 4 to 6 weeks. You have bots up and running, returning ROI very quickly. And this is what can be reported to stakeholders and leadership. And this fuels the adoption of RPA for future use cases.
Excellent. Thank you, Don. That is all the time we have left for questions. If your question was unanswered, we will respond to you via email. I want to take a quick minute to thank everyone for joining us today to learn a little bit more about the robotic process automation. As you have learned, RPA is a business process that's growing at an incredible rate. This process allows organizations in any industry to reduce operational costs, scale resources, perform repetitive work, and a lot more. You can find my contact information on the slide shown here. Please feel free to reach out to discuss your operations and how Vigilant Technologies can implement RPA into your business processes. Thank you and have a great day.